ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Chimera Elite, and today we're taking a look at the Priests of the Undead. Now, the Tier 1 Dark Soothsayer costs 44 AP. He has a Theurgic power of 2 and a movement of 4. His stats are not necessarily terrible. I'm talking about parry, dodge, damage, and toughness. And his will is actually pretty good at 14. So he's a frontliner in a way, but at the same time, with an accuracy of 5, you're not really going to be hitting anything. Those stats are more for show and defense rather than damage. He is a pure support through and through, and his one ability, Bad Omen, costs 2 faith points. It's pretty easy to cast, and has a range of 6. And you can only, well, you can use it as many times as you want, but here's the thing. You get minus 12 accuracy on your next attack roll if you have Bad Omen on you, or you get a minus 60% penalty to cast a spell or miracle. And the funny thing about it is if you actually succeed that, you have to re-roll it. So you have to try it again. So it's a pretty good way to deal with a really powerful unit. But keep in mind, you're spending 44 AP for this privilege. Now, along with the minus to accuracy and spellcasting ability, when you're under the effect of the curse, you get a minus 12 will for all resistance to fear effects. So if you have an army that has either the flesh, really anyone actually, the flesh golem, Melmoth, even Cain to some extent, and you have Bad Omen, you can cast Bad Omen on a guy's hero as long as they're not immune to fear, obviously, and they have an extremely high chance to actually get feared, which is actually really fantastic. Just one thing to keep in mind though, if you're facing Lion, then what you need to keep in mind is favorable auspices will, they'll kind of cancel each other out. But favorable auspices is replaced. Let's say you cast it on someone who has favorable auspices on them. Favorable auspices is replaced by Bad Omen. So it's kind of a screw you to that particular Valkyrie. He's iconoclast, so he gains faith points rather than getting them from allies. He gets them from enemies. So he has to be near the front line. He's obviously living dead. He has a fear of 9 and exalted. So along with having a really high will and a decently easy spell to cast, he also gets a plus 20% bonus to actually cast those miracles. Now the Dark Soothsayer is okay. I personally don't have him in my army because I need to be aggressive in a lot of my armies. I push in, and having a unit that can't really do a whole lot in damage wise doesn't really sit that well with me. But I can definitely see how annoying this bastard can be, because I've had to deal with him in the past. And if you're up against Wolfen, tossing a Dark Soothsayer in is actually a pretty good idea, because if you toss that on a Wolfen, they're not hitting shit, and essentially taking out one unit in an army that's already smaller than yours. So the Dark Soothsayer has a place in the Undead army. Now, the Tier 2 Master of the Veil is 56 AP, and you've probably seen him in 1 or 2 matches that I've played that I've uploaded. Now, he has 4 movement and the same Theurgic power as the Tier 1. He gains 1 faith point for every enemy in his faith zone, and he has a faith zone of 4, and a max faith pool of 4. He has Bad Omen and Inversion. Now, Inversion is extremely easy to cast, and really, the Master of the Veil is just an upgraded tier 1 in every respect except for accuracy and damage. He essentially sacrifices the ability to actually hit things and deal damage, which, thinking about the tier 1 stats, is already highly unlikely. I like the tier 2 a hell of a lot more. Now, in what Inversion does, it costs 1, has a difficulty of 5, and your range is your Faith Zone. So, your range is 4 hexes. And what it does is it literally swaps an enemy unit for your Master of the Veil. He essentially opens up a portal underneath this person and underneath him, and they just whoop, switch places like Portal. Just boom. And it can get your hero or anyone else in a really, really shitty situation. And it's really good if you're good at setting those kind of things up. Because if you're running an undead army with a lot of archers, a lot of ranged units, then you can, if they're being very, very cautious in trying to attack you, you can literally just poke away at them. Because let's say if it's a wolfen army, or even another undead army that goes along the same vein as mine, which is to say a lot of strong units, but not very many of them in comparison to like other armies, each unit costs a lot. Each unit, if I lose one, is a severe disadvantage to me. And having a Master of the Veil in the field essentially gives a zone of denial. Because if this guy is in the second, like, right behind the front line, and one of your units gets inversed, he is now in a very, very shitty situation. However, and I've run into this before, if you didn't set up your trap well enough, you might have possibly screwed yourself. Because the guy used Inversion on me, he didn't have enough damage, and I eventually just beat him. I destroyed him. And then I ran into Astral Worm, and I'm sure he remembers this fight very, very well. And he just grabbed Ryscar and murdered him. Because Gargoyle versus Ryscar is gonna win. But it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot. Especially when I'm surrounded by quite a few other very dangerous units. It's a game changer if used well and if used against the right army. He's kind of situational, but at the same time, he's still pretty damn good in most situations. He has Iconoclast, that's where his enemies give faith points, comes from. Living Dead, Fear 11, so he has slightly better Fear. He has Exalted, so plus 20% bonus on difficulty rolls when calling miracles or spells. He's not gonna fail rolls unless someone's screaming in his face and just slapping him. Now, along with all of those, he has Conscience. Now, what Conscience does is it gives you the ability to cast spells through walls. And one funny little thing that they may or may not have meant as a tease, in the description it says the unit can sense his enemies through walls and detect hidden units at double the normal distance. It can cast spells and miracles without having a line of sight to its target. So essentially, there are going to be sneaking units in the game at some point in the near future. Well, not near future, but at some point in the future. I'm excited for this because I like to sneak up and kill people. Anyway, Conscience makes it even more just dangerous. It's insane. I really like the tier 2 can be used to very, very devastating effects. Now, the tier 3 is kind of interesting in that he has obviously different spells, but it's what those spells do. He's the Spirit Destroyer. He's 69 AP, 4 movement. He has a Theurgic power, or a Faith power, of 3, meaning he has a Faith zone of 5. He still gets 1 point for each enemy in his Faith zone, but he has a max mana pool of 5. His stats, they suffer in parry, dodge, and toughness, 6, 8, and 6, respectively. His will is 15. It is what it is. He has Iconoclast, Living Dead, and Fear 9. He has 2 new attributes, though, Enlightened and Loyal. Enlightened makes his miracles deal 3 more damage, and Loyal gives all other units that can obviously get Faith regain Faith. Like, he gives them an extra point, which is fantastic if you have an army that uses a lot of Faith. It helps. Now, he has 2 abilities, Spiritual Aggression and Occult Erosion. Now, they're both kinda difficult to cast. They both have difficulty 11. And Spiritual Aggression costs 3, has a range of 6. You cannot, however, target possessed fighters. If the miracle succeeds, the targeted enemy unit suffers a damage roll equal to the Faithful's will plus 5. So you're essentially dealing or hitting for 23 damage. Not terrible. Not terrible. But it could still be better. Now, Occult Erosion costs 2, difficulty 11, range of 8, which is pretty good. But here's the problem. You can only target enemy mages and warrior mages. You cannot hit anybody else, which, makes sense. The curse disappears if the unit that called the miracle is eliminated. Now, what the miracle does, the magician targeted by this miracle instantly suffers a damage roll of 8 and loses 2 mana points. Also, you're cursed and suffer a -2 will after each incantation of the spell is cast until the end of the turn. You're a mage killer, essentially. That's what you do. But I'm sure you guys kind of know already my stance on situational units. I hate them. Now, admittedly, Spiritual Aggression is decent, but I'd rather spend my 69 AP on something a little bit less risky than a 69 AP Spirit Destroyer. Alright, I've said it time and time again in not every video, but most of them. Get rid of being able to kill things outright. Please. Just please. If this game isn't any indicator, I don't know what is. His Melmoth outright kills my Melmoth when I was winning, and suddenly, oh no, I'm losing. And then the next turn, I get a kill outright on a full health, not full health, but near full health Melmoth, killing him outright, turning the game right back around in my favor. That's just silly. Because while admittedly the entire game is based around dice rolls and random number generators and all that great stuff, throwing another number into the mix, being able to kill something outright, just isn't a good idea. When you can do something that changes the battle so just, it's such a huge change to be able to kill something outright. You can't balance that. Sure, it's like 1, 2, and 3%, and on some units like Arrhenius, it's like a 10%, 11, 12, and 13%. Get rid of it. It's more randomness on top of randomness that's already there. The randomness that you have right now in the game is fine, because it's small bits of randomness, and sorry, I just hit my mic, but it's small bits of randomness that make up the game. What you're doing is, what the developers are doing is throwing in a huge source of RNG. Being able to kill something outright turns the tide of battle to the point where it's just stupid. Either get rid of being able to kill things outright, or excuse me, or make it so no heroes can be killed outright. I know the Worgen has armor which prevents him from being killed outright, which is great, but really, it should be every single hero unit that cannot be killed outright, because it's just silly being able to kill a hero outright, because that's 3 elixir points that you essentially got for free. Either way, that's just my opinion, and it is what it is right now. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Next time, we will be looking at my favorite units of the undead, the Paladins. See you guys around. Peace.